back to the channel, everyone. Glad to have you all here with me. So this evening I'm going to be starting on installing a KOYO 36mm rad into the 350. So I was rocking an OEM radiator into 350, and what happened was the plastic outlet on the rad split, it melted, and then it split and cracked. So I was kind of I was almost just about out of commission. I had something rigged up there to make it work. And anyway, just until my new rad came in. So anyway, my rad is in now. It got shipped. So I'm going to get at it tonight now and start picking at it and doing what I got to do to make it work. So what I have to do is obviously remove the old rad. I have to take the fans out and trim those up because you can't make... The OEM fans are tight against the supercharger piping on boosted, as you guys know. So I got to make that work with the supercharger piping on the front. There's not much clearance. There's barely going to be any clearance there if I don't trim it. So I'm going to be showing you where I'm trimming on the OEM rad, or sorry, the fans. And yeah, I'm going to be installing some silicone hoses in place of the... So this is what happened. The braided hoses that I had installed, if you look back through my photos or my walkthrough, the video, a few videos I have posted, I have braided hoses on the engine, on the coolant lines. So those braided hoses broke down, melted, and then also took the plastic on my radiator with it, on the inlet pipe, it would be the outlet pipe. Anyway, so I'm removing all the braided hoses from the coolant lines, and I'm putting all silicone, CCP silicone lines on. So I'll be doing that as well. And yeah, there's not going to be a how-to video or anything like that. I'm just taking it step by step, and you can just follow along as I'm doing it. So yeah, here we go. So tonight I'm installing the 36mm double core KOYO rad. I have the old one ripped out right now, the factory rad. So in order to do that, I had to take off the supercharger plate, cooling fans obviously, drain all the fluid, and take off the hoses. So that was pretty good. Over here I have the factory rad on the floor lined up next to the KOYO. So as you can see, it's literally double the size. The KOYO is double the size of the OEM. And what I like about the KOYO is that it has the all aluminum body, unlike the OEM, which is all plastic. So that was part of the reason why actually the reason why I'm changing it out to the KOYO, is because this hose right here, this pipe, melted on me from using the braided lines. So I won't have that issue with this all aluminum body. And yeah, I just took advantage of the situation and upgraded, as you would. I'm fitting the OEM fan onto the KOYO rad. In order to do that, I had to do some trimming. Wasn't too bad. I'm still not finished, but I'm complete enough now that I'm going to test the fan and the rad into the car. But anyway, what I had to do, I laid it on the bench first, sized it all up. So what I had to do, I had to trim this corner, because this corner, the OEM fan was, the plastic was actually hitting this pipe on the rad. So that was one. I had to, on each side, I had to trim this plastic, the very edge of the plastic, because it was wanting to keep itself up off of the rad, so it wasn't going flush. So I had to do this on both sides. And other than that, that's what I have done so far. And the real test fit is the supercharger pipe that comes out of the blower and goes down to the intercooler. So that runs along here. So I'm thinking, I'm hoping this sensor is going to be fine, but I'm thinking that I'm going to end up having to trim these here, make these a little bit skinnier. This one here, probably these 4 maybe, where they line up, they go up, the pipe comes up and it goes this way. So we shall see. I'm going to test fit this in and see what kind of room I have. Okay, just did some more trimming in order to get it to fit. It's on the very top passenger side. In order to get the top pipe to clear on the radiator, I had to trim this piece out. And I also had to trim this piece because it's tearing up one of my hose. It's rubbing against the hose on the power steering pump line. More trimming needed, unfortunately. So by the looks of it, this is the radiator fan. This is the fan, how it sits on to the rad. This is the driver's side. So on the driver's side, it looks like I'm gonna have to trim. I got it marked here, Sharpie, barely see it, but I gotta get this edge down. I'm gonna take it down to this, take this little step off in here, bring it flat to this bracket, just from here to here, because that's where the supercharger plate, or the plate, sorry, but the supercharger pipe goes up. It goes somewhere like this, and this is where it sits, so it's keeping it raised. So yeah, there's that, unfortunately. One thing I'd like to note as well, when I was removing the old rad, I watched a few videos on doing this myself, but just to make sure there was nothing I was missing. But when everyone was dropping the old radiator out of the car, the condenser always seemed to be alive. Like everyone always, when they pulled the rad out, the condenser would always fall, it would crash, it would bang around, and it was, yeah, it was a bit violent for my liking. So what I did, I hung the condenser by its mounting points, but with a bit of wire, bit of tie wire, and hung it up, kept the pressure up off the rad, and then I kept it up off the bracket and then took the rad out, just so it was secured in place, wasn't flopping around, because the condenser actually sits in the brackets of the rad, so you need the rad in order for it to mount properly. So yeah, there's that. So without further ado, the radiator is installed successfully, and I was able to utilize the factory fans. Quite a bit of trimming, quite a few test fits, as you've seen earlier in the video, but I managed to get it. And it's pretty tight, I'll admit that. It's pretty tight going down on the supercharger piping. So we'll see now what it's like when I take it for a few runs now in the season, because it's winter now here, obviously. But yeah, overall it was pretty successful. Pretty successful install. The fit was nice. It fit really well in all the factory holes up top here and on the bottom. The condenser sits in it really nicely, and yeah, it's all pretty good. I didn't find it too difficult. Anybody with a bit of basic mechanical knowledge could pull this off. There's not much to it. And yeah, so what else do I have going on here? So I changed out the braided hoses that I had on previously. Like I was saying, they were melting because they couldn't handle the heat that the car was putting off, and which was not right. And they were also acting like little mini heaters all over the car. They were like hot to the touch too, so they were definitely holding a bit of heat because they were metal. And so anywhere that there was coolant running through, I changed out those hoses. So it was one here. I put another one on down here. So I changed them out with these silicone hoses from Concept Z Performance, and changed them out up here as well. I also installed the Z1 bleed port. That made it a lot easier to bleed rather than using the plastic Phillips screw in the factory bleeding point, because it makes it kind of sketchy. You don't know if it's going to strip out or not. So that made it a lot. That was like a peace of mind. So back to these hoses. Unfortunately, these ones are going to have to be changed out again. As you can see, there's little tiny dots all over the hoses, and with a little bit of research that I did, these hoses are apparently breaking down. And like you can see here, and I haven't even driven the car yet. This car has been parked. I've only ran it a few times to do a flush on it. So I was in contact with CZP, and apparently this is an issue with the manufacturer that makes these hoses for CZP. So they're going to send me out. They're sending me out a brand new set of hoses, free of charge, obviously, and with the guarantee that it's not going to happen again. So I'll be putting those on the car now once I get them. And so what I'm going to do, I'll probably do a video of actually me doing a drain and fill of the fluid in the car, because these engines are notoriously difficult to bleed coolant in them. So I'll do a video on that too, just for a bit more knowledge for everyone. And yeah, so what else did I have going on? Oh, unfortunately, I had to keep my I had to go back to my factory coolant tank, because the Weaponar polished tank couldn't fit here anymore. Reason being, the fill neck on the radiator is on this side now versus where it was before in the factory rad. It was over here, so there wasn't any space left here for this. So I'm either going to get a custom tank made, or I'm going to try to locate a tank to match my my Mishimoto catch can here. So we'll see where that goes. And I haven't trimmed this hose yet because I don't know what some of the tanks have different configurations for the hoses. So I never cut this yet. I'm going to leave that for now. And I also painted it satin black, as you can see, but I left open a gauge here on the bottom so you can see the fill level. And I installed a new thermostat. I didn't need to. You can't see it in the video, obviously, because there's too much stuff in the way. But I installed a new thermostat. I didn't need to, per se, but it's just I did it for preventative maintenance while I was in there, had everything apart. I changed out the old the worm clamps as well, put on T-clamps. They're just a better fit. You know, there's less chance of air leaking through them, and they don't cut up these T-clamps won't cut up your silicone couplings when you're taking them on and off. So there's that, and everything else is obviously put back together. I've had the car running a few times. Obviously, I had to do I did a flush on it. So the process for that, I drained all the old coolant out of it, ran distilled water through the engine, and then did that a few times and like drained it, ran it. I did that about 7 or 8 times until the water, what was in the engine was clear, just straight distilled water. And then I added coolant to it to bring it up to 50-50. And that's this is the coolant here that I used. It's Nissan Green, the OEM coolant that it comes with factory. So I use that. That's concentrate. And to do that, I used a flush kit. I used this funnel kit, and I'd highly recommend this on when doing a flush on these cars, or even just a regular bleed. I would. They come with the different attachments for the funnel, and you can actually watch it when you're running it in the funnel. You can actually watch it burp the coolant up through the funnel. So it's good. I highly recommend it. And like I said, when I do the next video, I'll actually show how that's done. So that's it. Unfortunately, I didn't get to do much of a time. I didn't do any time lapses on this process, and the reason being for that, I did actually do a couple of time lapses, and then my camera died. So it didn't make any sense for me to put the time lapses in, and it just would have abruptly ended. So that was unfortunate. But I'll make up for it in the next video. So that about wraps it up for the install of the KOYO Rad on my 350Z. So if you have any comments or questions or anything on the install, feel free to shoot them down in the comment section and I'll get back to you right away. This was kind of meant to be a little bit of an informative video as well, you know, for anybody going through this process. And yeah, so you can smash that subscribe button, guys. It really motivates us to keep making videos. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video.